Hey everybody, it's Janet McHugh. As it's about 6:45 my time, so I promised to make my favorite appetizer to take when I'm invited to somebody's house for Thanksgiving, Christmas, get together, anything at all like that. And it's one of my favorite to make ahead. You can stick this in the freezer. These are garlic, cream cheese, Parmesan, pinwheels. I just call them pinwheels, okay? The ingredients you're gonna need, let me show you, besides cream cheese. I use crescent dough sheets. You can use regular crescent rolls, just press the seams together. I softened my cream cheese, that's one whole thing of 8-ounce cream cheese. Now you can use minced garlic. You can use, oops, not garlic salt, garlic powder. My bad. Garlic powder, which of course I don't have right in front of me. Let me grab my garlic powder. You can use garlic powder. You wouldn't want to use garlic salt. You can add flaked onion to it. Leave it to me to be unprepared tonight. We're going to use the minced garlic. And because Patrick really loves this, I'm adding tagine to this. I've never done that before. But the other thing that I do add to mine every single time I make it, I freeze all my cheese. Shredded parm, and I use real shredded parm for this. I of course keep shake cheese, you know, the white bottle green label shake cheese. I keep that on hand too, but not for this recipe, okay? So let me tilt this down so you can see what I'm doing. See if you can still see me too. Maybe. That works. Okay. So my cream cheese is soft. Now if you don't know it, if your cream cheese is too hard for whatever recipe you're using, all you've got to do, 10 seconds in the microwave, try it 5 if you don't know your microwave, check it with a fork. If it's not quite soft enough, try it a couple times, 5 seconds at a time. I know that if I had to, I could have done it for 10 seconds and I would have been fine, but I left it sit out to thaw. I've got a thawing rack that I bought from my cousin. And so I know that I'm going to want to use this Parmesan cheese. Now, this is one of those things that you don't measure. You go by taste. Sorry to say that, but I would say for a thing of cream cheese, I'm going to use about half a cup of Parmesan cheese because that's how I like the flavor of it. I didn't say opening these were easy with clothes on, did I? I hope not. So here we go. That's about the right amount. When you make something a lot, you have a tendency to quit measure. You can blend these with a mixer if you really want. To me, that's just a waste because this is such an easy recipe to make. Really doesn't take that long. It takes longer to bake it. I would say 8 to 10 minutes to bake it. It's going to take me longer tonight to do everything because I'm explaining to you as I'm making it. Trying to make sure you see what I'm doing. I found that people really like it. They tend to request this when I go to get-togethers. There's a couple recipes they always ask me to bring. One is my scalloped corn. The other one is my pinwheels. So there's the basics. Now, if you like Italian seasoning, if you like garlic, if you don't, whatever spices you're fond of, this is when you add them, okay? Now, we like garlic, and whatever little bit of garlic you're going to put in this, ooh, that's got a strong smell to it, which I really like. Sorry. Is going to spread throughout the whole thing. I'm getting clean dishes out of my dish strainer. Not everybody's always prepared. Tonight's not my night. Now, it doesn't take much. There's how much garlic I'm using for the whole thing. Okay, because that little bit will probably do the trick. Um, you can always add a little more garlic to it. You cannot take garlic away from it, all right? This isn't like soup that you can put a potato in and take too much salt out of it, okay? This is a pay attention as you go. You can taste this because you have no raw eggs or anything like that that you're going to. And I got to get the garlic away from me because that's all I can smell right now. So anyway, here we go. Like I said, I haven't in the past put dried onion in, but I want to put a little bit in tonight. It's been like one of my go-to things lately. As a cook, as someone who loves to cook and bake, you go through stages. This is kind of one of my stages I'm in right now. Okay, so everybody has, you get hooked on a certain seasoning. Patrick's current seasoning, like I said, is tagine that I will be putting in this. And you wouldn't think that this would be something you would serve at Thanksgiving with turkey, but but it works really well because you don't always like everything to be all matchy and everything tastes the same for Thanksgiving. I like something that kicks it up a little different, What was it that Emerald Lagasse used to say, kick it up a notch, So, doesn't take much of that. I'm going to try a little bit of this in here today. I have put red pepper in this. I had a lot. I'm highly allergic to cumin and chipotle, both. And back in New York, I had a lot of friends that were Hispanic and loved spicy foods, and so when I would cook, I had a tendency to add red pepper to a lot of things and jalapeno and that type of stuff. So this is my knife that I cut my cream cheese with earlier. So I'm just going to take just the tiniest little bit and taste it, okay? Do it on the back of my hand. Just a little too mild, okay? The reason I did the back of my hand is that way I don't have to change gloves or wash my hands, because the back of my hands are not going to touch the food, and I'm real conscious of stuff like that. And if I think they are, I'll just change that glove. And add just a smidge more garlic. Garlic does kick up as you bake with it. I don't like to go overboard. For me, I could put like 2 tablespoons of garlic in everything and not have a problem with it. That's just how I am. So, I've got my cream cheese mixture ready. You can tell. That took a little longer than normal, but that's because I'm trying to explain to you what I'm doing. So this type of appetizer is normally made with a puff pastry. However, I don't make it with puff pastry. Simply because not everybody is comfortable with puff pastry. Whereas a crescent roll is going to give it a softer, I don't know if you can see that. I'm hoping you can. It's going to give it a softer flavor. Puff pastry is a little bit harder for some people to work with, okay? So I've spread it out, unrolled it the whole way. I should have rolled it the other way, but I have a cure for that. Move that. Turn my cutting board. Yes, I'm a natural blonde, as my brothers and Patrick love to remind me. So, now that my pastry's laying the right way, so I'm going to use the back of my fork as my spatula. And And I'm just going to smear this all over. Now, like I said, I would be going faster, but I just want you to see what I'm doing. I tend to go a little slower when I'm teaching people things, whether it's cooking, makeup, whatever. Typically, one roll of this Pillsbury crescent dough will work with the one package of cream cheese, half a cup of shredded Parmesan, and my little bit of spices. If there's leftover cheese, if you think that's too much cheese, you can freeze it. The cheese freezes really easily. Somewhere out there, there's people who, if they were watching this, they would be saying, I can't believe she's sharing this recipe. I tend to guard my recipes, but not all of them. This is such an easy one. And you don't need a lot of cheese because when you roll this up, it just oozes and it tastes so good. So, excuse me. The one thing I do that I will tell you when I bake, no matter what the recipe is, if the recipe says bake at 375, I put my oven at 320 or 350. No matter where I've ever lived, I've done that. If the recipe says bake at 400, I put it at 375. I know, Liz. If the recipe says bake it, it doesn't matter. Whatever. I have always been one to drop the temperature down. Reason being is if you cook it just a little slower, things tend to come out just a little better. You might take a little bit of extra time, but they tend to come out just a little better. You have better control, and you can always pop the oven up just a little bit at the end to brown them if it's something that has to be browned. So I'm just about got it. I might have to actually grab a spatula. I might be able to just use my knife. Like I said, it almost always works exactly. So this one is one that I would put in my oven. I think the original recipe that I found in one of the old cookbooks, I collect cookbooks. I'm going to show you at the end of this video my favorite cookbook collection, by the way. I think the original recipe said bake at 375. I bake it at 350. Again, going by that bake less than it says motto. I bake it at 350 and I check it at about 8 minutes. However, if you decide you want to make this tonight and freeze it, if you leave it sit in the refrigerator, the pastry is going to keep rising. You don't want that to happen, but you can seal it, put it in a Ziploc. Once you have frozen it into your individual, cut it up and frozen it, you can seal it in a Ziploc and then take it back out anytime up to 2 months down the road and bake it. When you do that though, pull it out of the Ziploc, let it thaw, and you're good to go. So as you see, very cheesy. I don't think I've ever made a single batch before. So I usually tend to take this to family get-togethers and friends get-togethers, and it's in such high demand that I end up making 4 batches, but that's my bowl. So there's the hard part. I guess you'd call that the hard part. And I pick up the edge, and then I just roll it kind of like you braid roll, like if you're making apple strudel. I know, there I go, assuming everybody's made apple strudel or something like that before. You start at one end and go like that, and then you come back at the other end and roll it so it evens itself out, okay? I learned how to make apple strudel when I lived in Germany, and that's how my landlady taught me. Roll from one end, and because it picks up and kind of goes funky, curl it a little, roll from the other end, and by the time you're done, it pretty much evens itself out. Nice and pretty. Roll it back. Pat it down. Make sure the seam is nice and sealed. When you bake these, you'll see in a second. Roll it. I use parchment paper. I know that not everybody has parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, use aluminum foil, shiny side up, spray it with Pam spray or whatever, rub it with oil if not. If you're just using regular, a regular sheet pan with nothing on it, spray it at the very minimum. And I make these about 1/2 inch thick because remember, these are going to puff up. So the way you know 1/2 inch, a lot of people don't know this, and I can't do it with a glove on and show you. A typical person, ignore the fingernail, a typical person from the end of their nail to their first knuckle, that's about 1 inch, okay? Unless you're really short, like my best friend Liz, and then it's the first 2 knuckles. Yes, I said that out loud. But yeah, most people, the first, from the tip of your finger to the first knuckle is about 1 inch. I'm sure there's people out there that are wanting to measure it. Yeah, I got you, Liz. So you can do it about 1 inch to 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. The end one is always just a little bit bigger. You can place them on the pan. I'll do a couple to show you. I'm going to freeze these tonight because we're not doing ours. Now see, when you cut them, they kind of squish, but that's when you can take the time and you can make them all pretty. And you can re-round them. And you can even sprinkle a little bit of paprika on them for color, a little bit of parsley. Like I said, if I was going to put Italian seasoning on, this is when I would. And if you look, you can see the lines in those. They get really dynamite, just they bomb with flavor. They just absolutely huge demand. And for those people that say, oh, each person's going to eat 1 or 2 of these, that has not been my experience. So I want to show you, and then I'm going to stop the video so you don't have to watch any further. They're this close only because I'm freezing this. I'm going to put a piece of foil across the top, let it freeze for about 1/2 hour. When they're frozen, I'll be able to put these in a gallon Ziploc bag. Then Sunday, when we celebrate our Thanksgiving, since Patrick works tonight, I'll pull them out and I'll space them more like you would cookie dough, okay? There'll be 3, 3 here, then 3 here. I do 3, then 3, then 3, like that, stagger them. And then I'll bake them. I'll let them thaw out, and then I'll bake them, when we're ready for appetizers, because I love serving appetizers. Because if I cooked them like this, it would be like having one big appetizer tray. We had to cut again, and I don't want to do that. So that's my appetizer for tonight. I hope you guys caught everything. Tonight has prosciutto, cream cheese, shredded Parmesan cheese, minced garlic. You could have used garlic powder. Patrick likes tagine, so we're trying it with tagine this year. And my current kick is onion flake. I have no clue why, so I put that in it this year too. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me, Liz. I really appreciate it. I do. I appreciate the love. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, Arizona time. I'm making homemade applesauce and homemade cranberry sauce at the same time. The only thing I'm prepping in advance is I'm going to peel, core, and cut my apples. That way you guys don't have to sit and watch me go like this for however long. Hope you have a great night. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Love everybody. Bye.